Good morning. We are good to go. So it is 9:02, and I call the San Mateo County Planning Commission meeting of December 13, 2023 to order. We are meeting in the San Mateo County Board Chambers as well as via Zoom. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, please proceed with the roll call.
Commissioner Hansen,
Here.
Commissioner Ketchum,
Here.
Commissioner Ramirez is absent, Commissioner Serrano Kwan.
Here.
Chair Gupta.
Here.
Thank you, Chair. You have a quorum.
So, Madam Clerk, we'll now open the public comments for items on the consent agenda and items not on the agenda. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will first call upon members in chambers, followed by members on Zoom. For in-person comments, the speaker slips are located in the ante room. On Zoom, you may also press *9 if you are calling by phone. And Madam Chair, we did not receive any written comments for items on consent or items not on the agenda. And also for the record to reflect that staff is represented by Monowitz, Fox, and Gonzalez. Thank you.
Thank you. So since we have no public comments for items not on the agenda and not on consent agenda, so we'll close the public comments and move on to our consent agenda. So we have minutes to be considered for Planning Commission hearing from November 29, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I so move.
Second. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Hansen and a second by Commissioner Ketchum. Commissioner Hansen,
Aye.
Commissioner Ketchum,
Aye.
Commissioner Serrano Kwan,
Aye.
Commissioner Gupta.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Next, we move on to regular agenda item 2. Madam Clerk, please introduce the project and the planner.
Owner, Tony Uccelli. Applicant, Steve Kelland. File number PLN 202200367. Location 130 Sonora Avenue, El Granada. Assessor's parcel number 047-122-108, and the project planner is Glangia.
Okay, morning. Sorry, morning, members of the Planning Commission, members of the public, and county staff. This is Glangia, planner with the San Mateo County Planning and Building Department. The item before the Planning Commission today is item 2, county file number PLN 2022-00367. The project proposes a 3,201 square foot single family residence, including a 502 square foot attached garage on a previously developed parcel at 130 Sonora Avenue in El Granada. The project involves only minor grading and no tree removal. The project is appealable to the California Coastal Commission. As the commission can see on the screen, the project is located in an urbanized residential neighborhood in El Granada and is located to the northwest of the Cabrillo Highway. The parcel size is 6,132 square feet. The project site is on one family residential S17 5,000 square foot minimum lot size combined district, design review district, and coastal development district. The project site is adjacent to other single family residences and vacant residential properties. Yeah, as shown on the site plan on the left, the proposed residence can be accessed from Sonora Avenue through a proposed driveway approach leading to the garage entrance. The image on the right visualizes the project design. Specifically, the project has incorporated design considerations such as color contrasting, wall articulation, and window style to be compatible with other residences in the neighborhood and to comply with the design review guidelines and standards. As discussed in the staff report, the project has been found to be in compliance with the county general plan, zoning regulations, design review standards, local coastal policies, and the Half Moon Bay Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan. As part of the recommendation to the Planning Commission, staff recommends that the Planning Commission determine that the project be exempt from the environmental review pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, section 15303, class 3A, relating to the construction of one single family residence in an urban residential zone. Regarding the project decision, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the coastal development permit and design review permit by making findings and adopting the conditions of approval in attachment A of the staff report. Yeah, this concludes staff presentation. Staff is available for any questions that the commission may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Questions, commissioners? Commissioner Hanson? No. Commissioner Serrano? I don't have any question for the staff at this time. Let's move on to see if the applicant wishes to speak. So you have 15 minutes. Please state your name.
Yes, good morning. My name is Steve Kelland. I'm the project architect. I just wanted to take a minute to just sort of summarize the project. Thank you to the staff for working with them and their presentation to you. As staff noted, we've already been to the CDRC and reviewed, most of the architectural elements. I believe that the main reason we're here before you is due to a culvert that is undergrounded through the rear corner of this parcel. And I believe that's the only reason that the project comes to the Planning Commission at this point. There is no water course in this location. There's no riparian corridor. The lot is vacant, but it still requires us, to come to you. We did work with the CDRC. It was well received. We had a couple minor modifications that they requested regarding a roof color and an issue with either some landscape or a window design. Other than that, well received. We also had worked with a neighbor who had come to the CDRC meeting with a couple comments just regarding his view corridors, and we have worked with him to revise our landscape plan to adjust some of the landscape and proposed trees so that he can maintain the view corridors. But other than that, very straightforward, single family proposed residence. I'm here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions
No.
for the applicant? I had a question. So I understand that there was a home on this property before. Um,
I believe so, and that was removed with a demolition permit that was approved by the county.
some time ago, right? So what was there the transfer of ownership that took place of the property? Yeah,
We'll let the owner. Sorry.
okay,
No, after I purchased the property, there was an old freestanding home, which actually wasn't even inhabitable, you couldn't, I mean, it was a danger. So, I went through the approval, get the demolition process done. Won't waste your time, but it was quite an approval process. Got the home demoed in May of 2020. Right in the middle of COVID, shelter in place. And, basically after that point, I've been working to get the new plans approved to build the new home on the site.
okay. So at that time, when the demolition was done, was there another plan approved or?
Well, we applied to get we did permits all through the county in order to get the I'm sorry, maybe I'm not understanding.
Oh, just a demolition
Yeah,
or
no, yeah,
was there?
we filed a CEP, I don't even understand all the acronyms, to be honest with you, but we got the coastal permits, we got everything we needed in order to get the demolition approved. Got it signed off on by planning, the building department. Michael Connell, was the head building inspector at that point. I demoed the house, after we demoed the house, we had to go through the whole recycling and approval process to show that all the stuff got everything went in the right direction, whether it was concrete, soil, whatever, a million different ways. And then got that permit signed off, so the demo was signed off and finally inspected and approved. Does that make sense?
I think to your
Okay.
question, Chair, the applicant, excuse me, obtained the required approvals to complete the demolition. The application for this project followed or was
Okay, so-
done
so
on
there
a separate
was
track.
no-
There was no approval of the replacement residence at the
Right.
time of the
Okay,
demolition.
that-
Sorry. yeah.
Sorry, yeah,
I couldn't visualize that far ahead, especially when we were in the middle of COVID, so it wasn't like, okay, I'm gonna do it all at once. I just like, let's get the house torn down, and then I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna do from there. Again,
Okay.
especially considering what's going on there, so yeah, I'm sorry, I just didn't quite understand, so I did it in two parts versus one fell swoop.
okay, understood. Thank you. Thank you for explaining that. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions I possibly?
No, I have no further question. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Okay, so, let's open it for, public, are there any, public speakers?
Thank you,
at this
Madam
time?
Chair. So as a reminder, the speaker slips for anyone wishing to speak in chambers are located in the ante room. We did not receive any written comments for item number 2, and there are no virtual hands raised on Zoom either. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
Pardon me, Madam Chair, there is one hand that just came up.
okay,
So I will call on Tom Carey. You will have 5 minutes. Go ahead, Mr. Carey.
Hello, this is Tom Carey. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yes, hello? Just
microphone is off.
Uh,
Hi,
Tom,
I can hear you now.
is this for item number 2?
Yes, this is public comment for item number 2.
I'd just like to say that, is this regarding the home on Magellan Avenue in Miramar?
No. We can call you, that's item number 3.
Okay, I'm all confused. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so with that, Madam Chair, we have no virtual hands raised for item 2.
Okay. Then we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners have any comments, any deliberations? Or do I have a motion? Can you put the motion up?
Yeah, could you fit the motion back up?
I've got it here.
Okay.
I move to approve the coastal development permit and design review permit by making findings and adopting conditions of approval in attachment A. I see the number isn't, this is for PLN 2022-00367.
I will second that.
Madam Clerk, could I have the roll call? please?
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Ketchum and a second by Commissioner Hanson. Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ketchum,
Aye.
Commissioner Serrano Kwan,
Aye.
Chair Gupta.
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Motion carries.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We move on to item 3. Madam Clerk, please introduce the project and the planner.
Owner Ruth and Paul Huard. Applicant Karen Friedman. File number PLN 2023-00028. Location Magellan Avenue, Miramar. APN 048-013-920. And again, your project planner is Glengia.
Good morning again, members of the planning commission, members of the public, and county staff. This is Glenn Jia, planner with the San Mateo County Planning and Building Department. The item before the planning commission is item 3, county file number PLN 2023-00028, sorry. The project proposes a 2,999 square foot single family residence and a 510 square foot attached garage on a vacant parcel on Magellan Avenue, Miramar. The project involves the removal of 145 HDBH cypress tree and only minor grading. The project is appealable to the California Coastal Commission. As the commission can see on the screen, the project is located in an urbanized residential neighborhood in Miramar and is located to the southeast of the Capitol Highway. The parcel size is 12,424 square feet. The project site is zoned 1 family residential S94 combined district, design review district, and coastal development district. The development is approximately 300 feet from the shoreline. The project site is adjacent to other single family homes and a public park. As shown on the site plan on the left, the proposed residence can be accessed from Magellan Avenue through a proposed driveway approach leading to the garage entrance. Additionally, the site plan indicates that the proposed development will maintain a compliant setback from a water course to the north of the development. The image on the right visualizes the project design. Specifically, the residence has incorporated design considerations such as color selection, architectural style, and lighting design to be compatible with other homes in the neighborhood and to comply with the design review guidelines and standards. As discussed in the staff report, the project has been found to be in compliance with the county general plan, design review standards, local coastal policies, zoning standards, public access policy, and the Half Moon Bay Airport land use compatibility plan. As part of the recommendation to the planning commission, staff recommends that the planning commission adopt an addendum to the 2012 adopted initial study and mitigated negative declaration. And the 2020 addendum based on the analysis discussing the staff report. Please note that the proposed development does not deviate significantly from the previous projects and would result in a reduction in footprint and building size comparing to the previous projects approved in 2012 and 2020. Regarding the project decision, staff recommends that the planning commission adopt the addendum to the 2012 initial study and mitigated negative declaration and approve the coastal development permit and design review permit county file number PLN 2023-00028 based on and subject to the required findings and conditions of approval in attachment A of the staff report. This concludes staff presentation. Staff is available for any questions that the commission may have. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Questions, Commissioner Hanson?
Yes. This is a unique property because it has something that most places don't have. It has two public fronts, one on the street side and one on the park side. And I was trying to understand the fencing arrangement because it looks like in the front you have a couple freestanding walls, fencing, and then there's nothing in the back, or there is something in the back, or
We will probably need to refer to the site plan for further confirmation, but based on our analysis as discussed in the initial study and maybe in the staff report, the rear part of the property is heavily wooded, so there are like a lot of trees on the property in the on the rear property. So the trees and vegetation in the rear yard will serve as a natural screening element.
I mean, it works for me. I just want to make sure I was reading everything right. So that there will not be a structural fence.
Regarding a structural fence, we need to refer to the project plan, and I don't have it with me right now, but we can probably defer that question to the applicant if they're present, or we can circle back.
I'm not looking for one. I was just making sure I understood,
Okay,
because I wouldn't want to see wire fence, cyclone fence or something. And
okay, yeah, so we're not aware of any abnormal structures or like non-standard fencing proposed on the rear property.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that's
okay, that's my only question.
Commissioner Ketchum?
Yeah, I have a question. So, the ADU CZ ordinance is new since this was approved the previous time, and this property is on the map for requiring on-site parking for the ADU. And particularly, this is probably the most impacted neighborhood for visitor parking in the mid-coast. It's really inadequate. And so is the ADU parking site as a tandem on the driveway to the residence garage? Is that considered adequate for on-site parking?
that's considered adequate because for ADUs, we do not require cover parking for ADUs. And on the other hand, if the property is located within half mile from the transit stop, so they can be the property can be exempt, ADU can be exempt from the parking requirements. So based on those considerations, we don't find the parking to be an issue.
I didn't know that the transit issue overrode the visitor access parking, coastal access parking map.
Regarding the coastal access parking map, I think you're referring to the policy under the local coastal policies. So that's not required for residential parking, and now we can circle back with the commission with the code section.
This is the actual ordinance in the county zoning regulations. There's a separate ADA ADU ordinance for the coast side. It's /CZ. It's a separate ordinance entirely, and it has these maps where showing the areas where an ADU would require on-site parking. And it was my impression that that would, that transit wouldn't override that. Well, there's two parts to this. There's whether that's actually true or not, but basically my question to you is any ADU that is well, if they don't require, is the it seems as though putting a tandem parking space in the driveway access to the garage for the house is going to be very inconvenient. I mean, already tandem parking is inconvenient if you're just got to get somebody in your household to move their car. But if it's in the ADU and they're no relation to you, that would seem desirable at all. And as I say, it's a it's highly impacted visitor serving neighborhood with inadequate on-street parking already. You have people going to Murata Road, and you have people going to Murata Surf Park, which is that other access road right next door. And so I'm just concerned. And also it's the way the landscaping is done very nicely, the front with the grass in between the pavers of the driveway. It would seem like, you know, it'd be easy enough maybe to have something, whatever.
Yeah, I recognize that concern. I think staff's analysis, as Glenn mentioned, was that our view of state law is that precludes us from requiring a parking spot here. However, with regard to the relationship to the LCP requirements, I have not delved into what takes precedence there. If this is a concern to the commission that you'd like us to further look into, I think we would need more time to do that. And so if that's a matter that the commission would like us to look into, I think that we would need to continue the matter.
I think on the question of transit, the stop in question would be all the way over at Mateo Avenue, which is a hike.
Mhm.
And all you've got is the 17 going up down the coast to Half Moon Bay or Pacific. That's all you get. So it's not
Right.
really transit.
But yeah, I think, you know, from the state law perspective is if there's a bus stop within a certain distance, that qualifies.
Well, that was my question. Anyway, don't want to.
Yeah, I see that Mr. Fox is looking into that, so perhaps we can come back to that question after we address any other questions the commissioners may have.
Any other questions?
Hi, this is Karen Friedman. Am I able to speak now? Is that appropriate?
We are not open to public comments as yet, but maybe in a little while when the public is on.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, sorry. You are the applicant.
That's right.
We are still discussing with the staff. Okay, so please hold on.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Serrano, what? Do you have any questions? Okay, so if the commissioners don't have any questions for the staff, we can have the applicant. Okay, Miss Friedman, please go ahead. You have 15 minutes.
Okay, hi, thank you. So my name is Karen Friedman. I work with Connect Homes, and I've been working with the wards on this project. We did present to the CDRC, and the project was generally well received. We had just a couple of minor revisions that we made. Just regarding a couple of the comments that have come up, I just wanted to mention that as Glenn said, there is a natural buffer to the rear of the lot, so there won't be a physical fence. But the park will be there are quite a lot of trees to the rear of the lot, so there'll be a natural buffer to the park. And as far as the parking for the ADU, we did follow the parking requirements for the accessory dwelling units in the coastal zone. Which, you know, if that's something you want to look at more, I understand, but there is an exemption for within that code, there is an exemption for public transit. So I just wanted to note that we were looking at that code when we were working on the site plan.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
I have a question.
Commissioner-
You were talking about the parking that you're still open for discussion on it. Is that what you're saying?
No, I just wanted to point out that we used the code that the panel member was referring to, the specific code for the coastal zone. It's chapter 22.5.1 or 22.5.1 for accessory dwelling units in the coastal zone. That's what we use to determine the requirements. Someone on the panel had mentioned that they wanted to look at that more closely. So I don't know if that's something you still want to do, but I'd like to assure you that that's what we used
Yeah,
when we determined the requirements.
yeah, those requirements are set for minimums or maximums for the situation, but they're not absolutes.
Sure, I understand.
Okay.
So are we still looking into that? Steve?
Well, so far, I've just been able to confirm what Steve was saying about which policies are in play. The state ADU law provides that an ADU proposed for construction within a half-mile walking distance of a transit stop of whatever quality that meets the definition in state law is exempt from parking requirements. But there's also a provision that says that the provisions of the Coastal Act are not superseded. I think the question that we would need to research if it were of interest to the commission is whether or not local policies with regard to parking are superseded or not, if they flow from Coastal Act requirements. So it would be a matter for the department to look into and report back on with our office's assistance, but I'm not sure to what extent there's a shared concern about whether or not there can be a parking requirement for this particular project.
Thank you. Commissioner Ketchum, is there, does that answer your question, or do we need to further research?
The other part of my question was, if indeed parking, on-site parking were required, would the county consider the driveway, tandem parking in the existing driveway for the garage to be adequate? Or would that tandemness be a problem?
For ordinary parking requirements, it's my understanding that tandem parking is usually not allowed as a solution to meeting parking requirements, but the ADU situation is different. I understand the modality of the relationship between an ADU occupant and the main residence occupant makes things a little complicated, but the policy of the state is that tandem parking should be adequate for provision of parking for an ADU in most cases. The question is whether or not there's an exception for the coast.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we need more time on this? To further investigate this issue?
I would recommend that you proceed with this hearing and that a person make a motion. And if the motion includes a request for more time and obtains a majority, then we could proceed on that in that manner. But we haven't received public comment or heard from the applicant yet.
Now staff is working on finding the code section that applies to the question, that's relevant to the question. And if I find it, I will circle back with the commission.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So in that case, we'll open it for the public at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is nobody wishing to speak in chambers, but we do have one virtual hand raised. So I will call on Tom Carey.
Can you hear me, Tom Carey?
Yes, we can hear you.
Howdy. I live at 114 Magellan across from the subject property, closer to the water. And I just wanted to state that I'm 100% in favor of this project. I hope it goes through. He's worked, I don't know the applicant, but I know they've worked a long time on it. I've lived in 114 for the past 6.5 years. And yes, there's a parking problem when it's a nice day and holidays. But unfortunately, none of these people go over to the reserved parking at the Miramar Beach restaurant, which is supposed to be reserved for part of it for parking. And I know it's 25 yards away, but no one seems to be able to find it. And I think most of the, being there for so long, that particular property is usually used for dogs to do their business and for out-of-towners to change their clothes. And it would help to have some more garbage cans out by the beach. And also by the bathroom that's up the block. But mine's a smaller lot. That's a big lot, and I like the project, and I hope it goes through. And I welcome the particular applicant, if I ever get to meet him, to come to the neighborhood. I'm sure the neighbors will welcome them also. And any questions, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. And with that, Madam Chair, there are no further virtual hands raised on Zoom, and staff did not receive any written public comment for this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we'll close the public hearing at this time. And I would like to entertain any deliberations or motion from the commissioners.
Did you want to continue more about the parking situation? Or?
Well, I'm conflicted because other than that, I think the project's just great. I do have that concern, and if it's not clear that that's backed up, then whatever, I just had to say my piece.
I don't have it.
I think it's a big property, and there must be some place to find parking on there. Otherwise, it looks like a good design.
It's a high quality design.
Yes,
It's
looks like
innovative.
design.
It's not static. I like the freestanding walls. I like that there isn't a fence in the back and making natural barriers like that. So when you're in the park looking toward the house, there isn't a definite static line. I mean, there's a lot of things I really like going with this.
There's a creek along the back, so if somebody wanted a fence, either one side or the other, not gonna be able to see the creek. So it's nice if it's open. Everybody can win with that, I think.
So are we ready to make a motion?
I won't be making the motion, but I guess we're ready.
I'll put a motion out that the planning commission adopt the addendum to an initial study and mitigated negative declaration and approve the coastal development permit and design review permit and county file number PLN 2023-28 based on and subject to the required findings and conditions of approval listed in attachment A.
Do I have a second? Madam Clerk,
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Hanson and a second by Commissioner Serrano Kwan. Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ketchum,
Aye.
Commissioner Serrano Kwan, Chair Gupta.
aye.
Thank you, Chair. Motion carries.
Congratulations.
Okay, so we move on to item 4.
Glenn, I want to thank you. Nice write-up.
Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So item 4, Madam Clerk, please introduce the project and the planner.
Owner, Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District. Applicant, Susanna Chan, Assistant General Manager of Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District. File number PLN 2023-00068, and your project planner is Luis Topete.
So good morning. For the record, again, my name is Luis Topete, planner with the San Mateo County Planning and Building Department. So the Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District is seeking a coastal development permit and a grading permit for their open space maintenance and restoration program. And this is to authorize maintenance and restoration activities over a 5-year period in the unincorporated area of San Mateo County. And this project is appealable to the California Coastal Commission. So the district's open space maintenance and restoration program will authorize maintenance and restoration activities over a 5-year period in the unincorporated area of the county. The district annually conducts dozens of smaller maintenance projects on its open space preserves to ensure proper care of the land and provide the public access opportunities. And to date, many of these activities have been permitted individually. And without a broadly applicable and consistent permitting strategy, maintenance and construction projects take significantly longer to plan, permit, and construct. And this creates scheduling uncertainty and is costly to the public taxpayer. And the district's purpose in developing the program is to streamline the permitting process at the local, state, and federal level and provide a more strategic and integrative approach to the planning and scheduling of preserve maintenance, low impact facility improvements, and habitat enhancement and restoration projects. And administering the program as proposed versus a series of individual activities also allows the district to establish and follow a consistent set of maintenance methods, best management practice, and impact avoidance measures. So the entire program area, which is coterminous with the district boundaries, includes roughly 31,500 acres of district-owned lands in the unincorporated area of San Mateo County, and approximately 14,400 acres of that area within the county's coastal zone. And this coastal development permit and grading permit covers only the portion of the program within the area of the unincorporated San Mateo County. So the objectives of the program include streamlining the regulatory permitting process by obtaining comprehensive long-term permits that improve work planning and implementation and reduce delays, align existing and planned district restoration and enhancement efforts in a strategic manner to ensure the overall program has a net benefit to regulated habitats and special status species. Also protecting and enhancing the natural environment and improving low-intensity public access throughout the district's open space preserves. Avoiding and minimizing potential impacts to the natural environment when conducting activities by assessing habitat, species, and resource conditions. and also identifying and prioritizing maintenance and facility needs by weighing potential impacts against permitting requirements and timelines. So the district has 26 open space preserves, which consist mostly of natural open space and recreation areas. And within the program area, there are over 900 culverts, 150 trail bridges, 25 vehicle bridges, approximately 230 miles of streams, 100 water bodies, which is mostly ponds, 115 miles of single track unpaved trails, 230 miles of maintained roads and existing building structures and utilities. So a lot of maintenance throughout the facilities. So the following tables summarize the activities that are covered by the program, which generally includes routine maintenance activities to ponds and lakes, water supply structures, roads, bridges, roadside and trailside ditches, also trails, creeks and other parks and open space features such as picnic areas, parking lots, and field offices. And the program also covers new facilities and improvements to existing facilities intended to be small in scale with minimal impact to the environment. And facility improvements and new facility projects included in the program area are those deemed necessary to maintain existing facilities in good condition, and that can also benefit the natural environment, particularly sensitive species. And habitat and restoration enhancement projects are also covered by the program. And this table summarizes the projected new small-scale facility improvements in the program. It limits these improvements by a maximum number of projects permitted each year based on the work activity, and projects the estimated disturbance per year by project. And a summary of the reasoning behind why the improvements are needed is also provided in the table on the right-hand column. And this table provides the same information, but for the proposed habitat restoration and enhancement activities, which includes reconstruction of ponds and wetlands, removal of structures in riparian areas, in-channel debris removal for creek and river restoration, removal of invasive animal and plant species, and road decommissioning. And the focus of the district's program activities is to protect and enhance the natural environment within its preserves and managed lands. And in support of this, the district has developed work limits to limit the extent of impacts associated with the program activities. And this is a continuation of that table. And work is limited by maximum number of sites per year where program activities can occur. Also by annual limits in the amount of work that can be completed, and a 5-year program work limits per activity type. So intended conservation outcomes of the program include reduced soil disturbance, erosion and water quality impacts associated with maintenance activities through careful planning combined with the implementation of best management practices that provide erosion control and protect water quality, to promote growth of native vegetation and protect and restore special status species and sensitive habitats, and rehabilitate areas disturbed prior to the district's ownership, to provide public access to lands while also protecting and restoring natural resources, to remove and manage invasive species while protecting natural resources and public health, and also to reduce fire fuels that contribute to the risk of wildfires and restore ecosystems by removing invasive plant species, a dead and excessive vegetation that has accumulated. So in summary, the program provides guidance and practices that avoid and minimize potential environmental impacts during implementation of program activities, and describes impact mitigation approaches and monitoring and reporting activities. And in addition, the program facilitates the district's compliance with CEQA and other resource agency permitting requirements. And in drafting this program, the district staff worked with regulatory staff from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Regional Water Quality Control Board, and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife to develop a programmatic permitting approach for all the routine land management activities as presented in the program. And the vast majority of the program activities would benefit listed species and their habitats, consistent with the district's mission statement. And maintenance activities would be conducted only when determined to be necessary or if in combination with other nearby work being performed. And this is to provide cost-saving efficiencies or to minimize equipment entries into an area. And on an annual basis, the district will conduct site inspections through their preserves to evaluate maintenance needs. And just to emphasize also on the third point, the program is designed to be self-mitigating, and habitat enhancement and restoration activities would offset program impacts. And no unique or special general plan policies have been identified that would apply outside the coastal zone, which would require separate analysis and discussion from the local coastal program policy discussion that's found in the staff report. Therefore, the analysis of the project's consistency with the local coastal program, which is more specific than the general plan with regard to the issues that are raised by the project. It also addresses by extension the project's consistency with the county's general plan in the coastal zone and non-coastal zone areas of the program. And the supporting analysis can be found in section A1 and section A2 of the staff report. And here's a list of the different zone districts that apply to the land within the program area. And the program activities, goals, and expected outcomes conform with the purpose of the zoning regulations. And a detailed explanation of the program compliance with all the applicable zone districts is detailed in section A3 of the staff report. And the district, as the CEQA lead agency, adopted an initial study and mitigated negative declaration in September 22nd of 2021. And subsequently filed a notice of determination with the state clearinghouse and the county reporter on September 23 of 2021. And as a responsible agency, the county was noticed during the district's CEQA review process and had no comments or objections to the adequacy of the environmental document. And the potential environmental effects of the project identified in the negative declaration that were prepared by the district were reviewed and considered during the evaluation of this application. The staff recommends that the planning commission approve the coastal development permit and grading permit identified as county file number PLN 2023-00068 by adopting the required findings and conditions of approval contained in attachment A. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Chair Gupta, if I may, I'd like to acknowledge receipt of 2 pieces of correspondence regarding this matter that was provided to the commission last night. And with your permission, I'd be happy to respond to some of the questions raised by one of the letters.
Please.
Yes, please.
Thank you for your presentation. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Well, the first letter from Green Foothills is in support of the program. The second, and the issuance of the permit. The second letter from Carrie Burke raises a few issues, including the extent of documentation associated with the project. There is a lot of materials associated with the development of this plan. But I think it's important for the commission to note that this has been under development for a few years now. The CEQA document was adopted in September of 2021. So there's been plenty of time for people to understand the scope of the project and the type of mitigations that will be required. So I believe that there's been adequate opportunity for the public to review and comment on this. Ms. Burke suggests that there would be support for a similar program for private landowners. Any landowner has the ability to apply for a 5-year permit to do specific activities. I would also note that the Resource Conservation District has a program under which, if you work with them, the county will exempt grading permits associated with restoration activities. So there's nothing in the action that's recommended today that would preclude us from pursuing those suggestions. With regard to the annual report, we're certainly open to suggestions on how that might be expanded, but at this point, we believe the condition is sufficient to provide the documentation necessary to ensure that the activities are within the parameters established by the plan and the permit. Finally, with regard to the questions at the end of the letter, my understanding is we're not distinguishing between man-made or natural ponds when it comes to maintenance. The maintenance provisions, I believe, would apply to both.
I do have a question on that. Does that also include seasonal vernal ponds? Is that a pond or not a pond?
I would assume it's a pond.
Okay,
Yes.
I see a thumbs up
yes,
for the
I'm
record.
getting confirmation from the applicant. Will building permits be required for the bridges? Yes. Will the bridges meet CAL FIRE requirements for width and load capacity? I assume so. Those building permit applications will be referred to the fire department, and the fire department will apply whatever requirements they believe are relevant to the bridge construction. And with regard to the amount of land clearing and limits on grading, I think that that's described in the project materials. I don't have those quantities at the top of my head, off the top of my head, but if the commissioners have questions about that, I think both Luis and the applicant will be able to respond to those. So, thank you. If there's anything else raised by the letter that you'd like me to respond to, please feel free to ask.
I have no additional questions.
Regarding the letter from Ms. Burke, she had asked for an expansion of condition number 9 and for this year-end report, and I just wanted to point out that there is condition 11, which does just that. It's my impression. That's what that does. So yeah, just to add that to what you said.
Thank you. And unless the commissioners have questions, I think we're ready to hear from the applicant.
To the man-made pond or the seasonal pond, how do we determine what is a pond?
I have a sense that the applicant will be able to respond to that issue.
Okay, yes, I'm sure. Okay, thank you.
What I would
Any other-
recommend is you make your presentation, and then at the conclusion, you can respond to any outstanding questions.
Chair Gupta and Commissioners, I'm Susanna Chan, Assistant General Manager with the Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District. Here with me, several MidPen staff. We have Julie Anderson. She is our Senior Resource Management Specialist, very experienced in natural resource management and protection. She will be able to answer your questions. And we also have our planning manager, Jane Mart, has a lot of experience in CEQA, and our maintenance manager, Craig Beckman, and he's going to be the one that's responsible for overseeing a lot of maintenance activities under this program. And we also have our consultant, Kim Ashbury, and she's with Mount Rose Environmental. They are the firm that help us develop the restoration and maintenance program manual, as well as the permit application before you. Together, we will be able to answer your questions. And thank you for the opportunity to provide some short presentations. And first of all, I want to thank staff for providing a very comprehensive staff report and the presentations. Really highlights the goals and the desired outcomes of our programs. I would really appreciate their efforts. And we feel that providing us this long-term 5-year program will allow us to significantly streamline the permitting process, which will benefit our agencies as well as the county as the permitting agencies. It also will allow us to have a very comprehensive approach for our preserve maintenance, for our small facility improvements, also our habitat and enhancement and restoration activities, which is core to our missions. For today's presentation, we wanted to just augment staff's presentation and focusing on 3 areas. We want to tell you a little bit more about who we are. We want to give you some example of the cover activities. We also wanted to show you how we develop our annual program under this annual project list under this program, and also how we're going to prepare to report out the results annually. Now, I will cover the meat pen piece. As you know, we are a government agency with a very focused missions. Our mission is to acquire and preserve a regional green belt or open space land in perpetuity, and we protect and restore the natural environment. We also provide opportunities for ecologically sensitive public enjoyment and education. On the coast side, our mission expanded to acquire and preserve agricultural land and to preserve the rural character of our coastside, and also encourage viable agricultural use. And our district boundary stretch from San Carlos to Los Gatos, and also from San Francisco Bay to the San Mateo coast. Last year, we celebrated our 50 years anniversary, and over the last 50 years, we have protected over 70,000 acres of open space on the peninsula. When we submitted our application early this year, so we have 26 preserves, but this year, we purchased the additional 5,000 acres of Coverdale Ranch in Pescadero, and Coverdale Ranch became our 27th preserve. So today we own 27 preserves. Just a little bit more information about us. Again, we are government agencies, and we are governed by a 7 board-member board, and all our board members are elected officials. We are primarily funded by property tax. And currently we have about 200 employees and over 1,000 volunteers. We preserve over 70,000 acres of land, and we have 250 miles of trails. And our preserve and our trails are open to the public at no cost. I think I'm gonna stop here and then turn it over to Julie, and she will cover the other 2 items.
Thank you, Julie Anderson, Mid-Peninsula. I'm with our Natural Resources Department. I oversee the waters and wildlife programs, so the state and federal permitting associated with this project. Some of the covered activities involved are our routine maintenance activities, as well as small-scale facilities and restoration and enhancement. We do use the restoration to offset impacts from any new development under the small scale or any of the routine maintenance work. Routine maintenance, our program is similar to what the county's public works program has, but we do it in a more rural environment. So a lot of our work is similar. You may have seen this before with your county's own program. We do a lot of stream crossing work. We have a lot of roads and trails that cross streams. This is one of our work sites in the La Honda Creek Open Space Preserve. A lot of culvert maintenance. I think Luis mentioned we have about 900 culverts across the district. They do get plugged from sediment or debris through the massive storm systems that hit us every winter. And we work on clearing and removing that debris, not just to make sure the trails remain open, but to reduce sediment to downstream watersheds and protect water quality for downstream users and sensitive resources. Trail maintenance and grading, having a good trail surface for the public, as well as making sure that it does break up that runoff so that it doesn't flood or wash out or cause large debris slides for both public enjoyment and resource protection. Trail and road brushing. This is what keeps the trails from being overgrown, as well as also sometimes serves a dual function of a fuel break associated with an existing road or trail. Our wildland fire program, again, has identified both shaded and non-shaded fuel breaks, fire treatments for fire resiliency, defensible space around structures adjacent to facilities and other activities. Some of what that looks like, these are a lot of before and after shots for you of clearing understory, removing ladder fuels, performing essentially defensible space work, either adjacent to facilities, trails, or sometimes in areas where there's been a type conversion and you're trying to get the vegetation back to a more natural condition to facilitate the resources. Small scale improvements. Here's an example of a trail system in Montebello that the old trail is that hatched, dark, almost looks like a little bit like a railroad symbol. It went straight down the ridge line and carried a lot of sediment, did not break that up well. And through our traditional maintenance, we could do some improvement, but a true realignment following that new yellow alignment that follows the contours of the land is more sinuous and allows you to break it up at different intervals instead of massive construction along an older unimproved trail. That's an example of one of our small scale projects. Grazing water systems, we do have conservation grazing on just over 10,000 of our acres, most of it in San Mateo County, and things like improving the water storage tanks, the water distribution lines, and stock watering troughs to keep cows out of the creek, and using their designated water supply sources and to protect water quality for wetlands, ponds, and streams. Restoration and enhancement, a couple of examples. Pond restoration, I will answer that pond question now. It's basically a water body that maintains over a foot of water for longer than a month each year in a given year. That would change it from a small wetland to a small pond. So some things might be a pond in one year, but not in the next. But
So not a vernal pond.
those would be more just a wetland. Yeah, that would, unless it pulls for over a foot for a month in a year, then it would be a pond that year. Road removal, we do actually decommission some of the old roads. Some of the properties we acquire are large ranches that had roads that a previous ranching user may have needed and we no longer do, and it could cause problems to try to maintain it if we don't need that road. Ecosystem resiliency fuel treatments, that's some of that fuels work that isn't adjacent to structures, but instead might be around, for example, a vernal pool that might be having a lot of vegetation growing in and choking it out and taking away that water source. So you can remove some of that vegetation in a very sensitive manner to protect it and maintain it as a vernal pool and not have it succeed into just a grassland or shrubland. Non-native vegetation removal is a large part of what we do, removing invasive species throughout the preserves. So the development process we go through, how do we determine what sites each year? A lot of our field staff generate project lists from just what they see. A lot of these are long-term plans that are in the works, and we have things coming up annually each year. So we start to generate what are we doing in this coming year? We analyze the applicable programs. Does it fall under that wildland fire resiliency? Does it fall under integrated pest management for the invasive species work? And does that all roll up into our open space maintenance and restoration program? We'll then look at the applicable CEQA documents to make sure that we're accommodating all of the mitigation measures. The strictest always applies. And then we'll make the final permit determination. Does it also fit within not only our local permit here, but the state and federal permits associated with the program? At that point, we've determined it's ready to go for this year. If it's not ready, if it's too big, can it be redesigned to fit within the limits of the program? Does it need an individual permit, for example? And then we would provide that notification list to all of our agencies that says, here's the projects for the year. It comes with a map of each site and usually before and after shots with the reporting. So you'll get the, at the end of the year, you'll then say, of that list, here's what we were able to complete. Here's the before and after photos. Here's anything that was observed during that work. And this is just a flow chart that kind of explains that process that, you know, our grazing ecologist might see some work that needs to be done that would generate an item for the list. Our field staff might notice a maintenance issue. We may have just a culvert that's up for renewal, or there might be a project that's been in planning. And again, then we look through the different programs, look through the different planning documents, determine whose jurisdiction it's in. I do want to update this. We love this. It really tells us which agency we're working in where when we're doing something, but I'm going to add the ocean on the left side. So we can then say, here's the coastal zone. Add that. That will be a nice value add after this. And then again, if it is on that project list, we make sure if we're affecting waters of the state or federal, we have a little bit of different requirements. They need some different information on their reporting. And we just tack those on, that goes to them. And then we have our program. So that's how it works each year. Some of what we do, how we do it, how we notice it up front, and how we report on the back end. And open for the questions.
Thank you. Questions?
Thank you.
Commissioner Ketchum?
Thank you. Thanks for this presentation. And could you possibly provide a PDF of your slides to post with our meeting materials today? I think other people might be interested to see it. Thank you.
Commissioner Hanson?
First, I got to applaud your work, and it's been delightful watching it for my 50 years of being here. I do have a question, because it's a question sitting here I always come up against. And you use the word restoration. And, you know, what San Mateo County has been before the first Californians came 10,000 years ago was radically different. And they radically changed the landscape. And then we have the Spanish colonization of California, which again changed the landscape. And when we say restore, are we restoring to a historic period, or are we trying to restore what we think is sustainable going forward? Global warming has hit the tipping point. There is no way of avoiding it now. There's nothing we had to stop doing everything we're doing wrong yesterday. And we have countries that just haven't even addressed it. And no matter what we do, it's going to go forward. So when you say restoration, how do you view that?
Through the lens of Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District, we're restoring ecosystem function. So we're looking at a stream channel that maybe is delivering sediment, and we're trying to reduce the sediment input. For a pond system, you're trying to determine what stage of succession. So is it going to be an open water pond? Is it going to be a marsh? Or is it some ponds do allow to type convert depending on the site. So you're doing site specific restoration, looking at the ecosystem function and how to restore something. So another example would be a forested area that is grown out of, basically it's overgrown, and a fire that would move through there would catastrophically burn the entire forest in its current condition. So we would try to restore a more ecologically resilient forest. So you may still have a forest, you just will remove the number of trees or the ladder fuels so that it could carry hopefully an understory small burn instead of a large wildfire. So ecosystem function is the goal of restoration at Mid-Pen.
So in your mind, it's just short term where we are today.
Generally where we are, but sometimes where we are today is not acceptable. That example of the forest that today would be a large wildfire, we would be trying to restore to a different condition. And some of those might be restoring to future condition. So some of the culvert work that we do, we're sizing up to 100-year flood, knowing that those rains are coming more often and more frequently, and it may now not be 100 years, but sooner.
Yeah, there's no right answer to my question. It's just your philosophy. Thank you.
I have some basic question. I'm sure between your organization and between our county staff, you have put together a big report here. A lot of information in there. And how are we going to know? Just like one of the letters that we have received, correspondence that we have received, is that how are we going to know that the plan is working? What is planned here for the next 5 years? How do we know it's working? So I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. So every project that you will be doing, whether it's maintenance, whether it's restoring, whatever, do you go through a plan of putting it together, a project, like a project?
Yes and no. And so some of them are in like a large preserve plan and some things require engineering, like the bridge, for example, but some things are standard design. So there's a lot of through the Department of Fish and Wildlife at the state level, they have a fisheries restoration grant program, and there's an associated manual that tells you how to do fisheries restoration work.
Okay.
So certain projects we'll just look at and say, is this a armored ford and can we follow that standard design? And then we just take that off the shelf plan. And so we don't have to do additional project planning.
Okay. So you had shown some charts here. It went through quickly, so I didn't get a chance to look at what exactly you had. So it's not like step-by-step plan, how long it would take. So you said that there's something already there and you just pick it up and do it for certain things.
Yes, some of them are very programmatic. That's why this is a program, and others still require those individual planning. Ponds projects, for example, you need to make sure you're adequately sizing, that your berm is engineered to secure the water behind it, that you're providing the adequate spillway, those sorts of things. And engineers are involved in any project that they are required for. And something like a small bridge, a puncheon, that is also a standard design. And those are, I believe, are under 9 feet. Is that right, Greg, or is it 12? Up to 15 is our standard design for a pension, and we can just use that standard design if it fits at that site. And that's would be a staff level review with this work here. And then again, reporting to the regulatory agencies, that tells us if this is working, because this has to be self-mitigating. We are doing it because it's the right thing to do, but we also have to do that. And if we do not meet if we don't offset our impacts at the end of 5 years, they won't renew our permit for the next 5 years. So we are interested in doing that ethically as our mission, but also because we have to, and we'll be held to doing that.
Right. Right, like you're also applying for grading permit, like for example, now grading, different areas of grading is specific to that area, right?
Yeah,
So-
for example, the pictures that you saw in the slides today all went through individual grading permits. They were all San Mateo County examples, but there are also some that go through the grading exemption through the RCD that Steve mentioned. A lot of the ponds projects have used that permitting vehicle for grading work previously. And then some things are just small scale and they don't hit the grading threshold. And so those wouldn't actually require a grading permit, but they might still require all of the other permits. So they're in the program.
Right. So even though they don't require permit, because you have this, for lack of better word, a blanket permit for 5 years, but you still need to have a methodology in place to accomplish it in a proper manner.
Absolutely, yeah, I
yeah.
think it basically allows us to do the small, medium, and large size work that we have under one
Understood.
lens, yeah.
And so this is for the coastal zone only.
It's
For that.
for, the rating permit is for the entire county, and then it also is the associated coastal permit in the coastal zone.
So grading permit is for the whole county,
Yes,
including the bayside.
yes, actually, the open space maintenance restoration program does not include all coastal preserves, but all of our coastal preserves, I believe, are in Santa Clara County, which would be Ravenswood and Stevens Creek, so it wouldn't be bayfront work. There's no bayfront work in San Mateo.
Thank you. Thank you. No more questions at this time. Okay, so if no more questions, then public. So do we have public?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as Director Monowitz noticed, we we did receive 2 written comments that were distributed to the commission and posted to the website. And we have nobody wishing to speak in chambers, but we do have 2 virtual hands raised on Zoom. So I will first call on Kendra Hartman, followed by Carrie Burke.
Hello. Hi there. My name is Kendra Hartman. I'm speaking on behalf of the San Mateo County Farm Bureau. And we just wanted to understand a little more about the procedure, which appears to be tearing off of the initial study mitigated negative declaration that was certified in September 2021. So as I understand it, these CDPs and grading permits can be extended for a 5-year period, but it appears that it's a little unclear from my quick, admittedly, reading of the staff report and all of the accompanying documents. But it appears there's some activities that would normally not be exempted from review, for instance, things that enhance or culvert enlargement, things like that, that normally would require review for a CDP, a discretionary review, not ministerial activities. So we just want to understand a little bit more and make sure that this is not an improper use of tiering under CEQA, using a programmatic MND, for example, to approve projects later down the road without the proper review that needs to take place under CEQA. So thank you for that. We just appreciate the time to speak and just understand a little bit more.
Thank you, Ms. Hartman.
Thank you. I will now call on Carrie Burke.
Good morning, Commissioners. Carrie Burke. And as noted in my letter, I do support the intent of this permit, but I do have, questions because of the scope of this project. It does have the potential to impact adjacent private lands also. Director Monowitz did a good job of addressing some of the concerns I had in my letter. But, I think that this is a good opportunity to be able to develop on the county's end, streamlining of the permit process for the private lands. Sometimes there is some misunderstanding on what's an exempt activity for road maintenance, et cetera, for our farmers and ranchers. And so that's always a concern. And, so everyone would love to streamline the permit process and also reduce the impacts to the planning staff. And so I understand the intent, but I think given the comprehensive nature of this document that was so big, it has a lot of good information that could maybe be utilized by the county staff. It isn't, even though the Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District may have met the minimum requirements for notification of the environmental document, I still think that there's opportunity that could have been taken to have this reviewed by the local community, either by by the district coming before the Farm Bureau or the Agricultural Advisory Committee. Since some of this work will occur on PAD lands, that is the purview of the Agricultural Advisory Committee. And, you know, and also in trying to craft or improve upon the conditions 9 or 11, I just think that it would be really beneficial to the district and to the County Planning Commission if they just came before and made a presentation annually to the commission, so then the public might have more access, you know, to how this project is doing. Perhaps even though I can just only imagine the amount of public investment. I'm looking at this list about the amount of money that is being spent annually to, albeit, yes, improve the environment, improve conditions. We all want that, but, you know, just having some level of understanding what techniques work, what didn't maybe go as well, and share that so that all the landowners, public or private, can improve their techniques and actually have additional benefits, you know, throughout the county. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you to Steve for his information, and wishing you all happy holidays.
Thank you, Ms. Burke.
And with that, Madam Chair, we have no virtual hands raised on Zoom for item 4.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So with that, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, any further comments, deliberations? If none, any comments? Steve?
I'd be happy to respond to some of the questions and comments that were made. With respect to questions about tiering of the CEQA document, that's not the way I would characterize the situation. What happened is Mid-Peninsula is the lead agency under CEQA, and the county is a responsible agency. And I believe we've fulfilled our duty as a responsible agency to consider the environmental analysis completed by the lead agency in our action on this application. I think the speaker from the Farm Bureau also was concerned that somehow we were misapplying coastal permit exemptions, and that's not the case, in that we are issuing a coastal permit for specific activities at, you know, specific properties owned by the district. They're all properties owned by the district in the unincorporated area. So we're not issuing exemptions, we're issuing a coastal permit, and we put parameters around that permit to make sure all relevant local coastal program requirements have been met. Turning to the comments submitted by Ms. Burke, you know, I think the idea of a presentation to the commission on the results of the annual report is a good idea. And I'd be happy to speak with Mid-Penn about trying to make that happen. But I don't think it's necessary to put that as a requirement in the permit. I will, as you know, I was tried to keep you updated during my district director's report, and also always open to any request for study sessions or information items that the commission may be interested in. So I think we have plenty of opportunity to allow for such a presentation in the future. Finally, and I agree, I mean, what we can learn from that about what projects and approaches to some of these environmental restoration issues work best. That's useful information for everybody. And so I think it is a good opportunity to share that, and we will be happy to do so. Finally, with review by the Ag Advisory Committee, although some of these restoration and maintenance activities will take place in the planned agricultural district, they're not the type of activities that typically require a planned agricultural district permit. And so for that reason, the item did not go before the Ag Advisory Committee. But certainly as the program proceeds, should questions or issues be raised by any of the Ag Committee members, Farm Bureau members, anyone in the community, we will be happy to address and respond to those questions or concerns. So that concludes my response.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions for Steve?
I have comments other than I really look forward to a 5-year plan. I think this is what we should be doing. Anytime we could move bureaucratic obstacles out of your way is what we should be doing. That's part of our job. And we're all pushing on an open door, and there's no reason to have an obstacle in your way to improve the environment. So, and the experience for everybody who is going to use this. So I'm in support of this. And if you're willing to do a yearly report, I'd love to listen to you.
No, I think I'm good with hearing from you on the yearly update, Steve. That would be good to know. And as you said, it would be a good experience for everybody concerned on that. And it's a good project. I think it's a good something to look forward to and learn from it.
Yes, I too think the wrap up and hearing it is useful, and even we might, if there's a way to include perhaps county parks on their restoration efforts to make it just sort of a restoration projects and how they work, stuff like that, whatever, anything like that would be much appreciated. And I support this and ready to make a motion.
I'm ready to entertain the motion.
So I move to approve the coastal development permit and grading permit, county file number PLN 2023-00068 by adopting the required findings and conditions of approval contained in attachment A of the staff report.
I'll second that.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Ketchum and a second by Commissioner Hanson. Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Ketchum,
Aye.
Commissioner Serrano Kwan, Chair Gupta.
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Motion carries.
We move on to item 5.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only correspondence to note are the 2 items that were referenced in the last item. So moving on to the director's report, I'm going to keep it very brief today and reserve whatever time is needed to answer commissioners' questions. And that's just to remind you that we have the Coastal Commission hearing this Friday on the Pescadero LCP amendment, which is needed to allow for the extension of the CASA 11 water line and the construction of the new fire station. I think since we last met, we received the Coastal Commission staff recommendation. They are recommending approval, but they're also suggesting modifications. From the staff's perspective, county staff's perspective, we don't think all the modifications they've made are necessary, but however, we believe they're acceptable, and we intend to support the staff recommendation at the hearing on Friday. So encourage you to tune into it online if you're interested, and I'll be happy to report back on that at our next meeting, which is on, I think I skipped over the next meeting. So going back to next meeting, that will be on January 10th of next year. We are not proposing a study session. We have a coastal development permit for improvements to Año Nuevo State Park. A pretty significant project. It's a popular destination for many reasons, one of them being to view the elephant seals, which if you haven't done, I highly encourage. So they're making some significant improvements to their staging area there. And in addition to that item, we will be conducting the election for next year's chair and vice chair. So that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Around what time do you think your presentation would be for the coastal commission?
Yeah, it's difficult to predict. I have been in touch with commission staff. There's a general public comment period at the beginning of the meeting, which starts at 9 o'clock. It's estimated that that could last up to an hour. And then there's a few federal consistency items prior to our item that could take potentially up to 2 hours. However, things can change, and they can change last minute. So I will be there first thing and ready to listen. And I would just say that, you know, the Coastal Commission hearings are always a interesting learning experience. So tuning in early to listen to some of these other items will not be a waste of time. It will be
Yeah, no,
informative.
I have listened to some of
Yeah.
them, right, in the past. Right. Okay. Okay. So it's a big question mark.
Yes, I mean, it could be, it's unlikely it'll come up before 10 o'clock, but it's also likely that it won't come up till midday or early afternoon.
Kind of keep tuned.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, any update on Board of Supervisors meeting?
Yes, you know, the only item of interest that was acted on by the board since our last meeting was the report on the Mid-Coast Park and Recreation fees. That report was accepted by the board. There was a request for some follow-up information regarding how money has been spent in previous years, which we will be providing.
That additional information on the fund, could you make sure I get that?
Sure, be happy to.
Okay. So happy holidays to all. Happy holidays to all. Thank you. And meeting is adjourned.